and welcome back to my channel. I'm back with day 2 of the Harry Potter lettering challenge. So let's take a look at the prompt for today. So the prompt is Mr. and Mrs. Dursley of number 4 Privet Drive. We're proud to say that they were perfectly normal. Thank you very much. So since I actually have a sentence to letter today, I thought I would go ahead and practice my normal cursive, which is why I have pulled out one of my fountain pens. So this is actually one of my favorite fountain pens. It is an extra fine Lamy. However, it is not going to be as fine as, for example, like a Pilot nib, so a nib from a Japanese pen. But it is still a very nice pen, and I love the ink. It is the, and I'm going to butcher the pronunciation, but it is the Iroshizuku Fuyushogun. So it's basically like it's a gray that actually has a little bit of gradient to it, so it's really, really nice. So let's get started. Can't forget my palm protecting sheet. So here we have the sentence for today in my regular cursive, and I just did sort of an oversized version and a normal sized version. And I am definitely not as good at cursive, and I'm looking at this now and my hand was really shaky for some parts. Like it started off okay, but then my hand just got really shaky. And so a couple of my straighter lines that should be straight are actually a little bit squiggly. So this is something that I know that I need to practice more in if I want to have more have a more consistent style when I write in cursive. But I really do like writing in fountain pen. I feel like the pen just works very differently from a regular gel pen. So while I like to print and stuff in gel pen, I find that doing cursive practice in fountain pen just works really well for me. And one of the things that, I know this question has come up a couple of times in my Letter Like a Lefty videos, fountain pens and lefties, it is definitely possible. You guys will notice that I use a piece of paper under my palm. This is actually just straight up blotting paper. I just had it in the back of my bullet journal. But I do use a piece of paper under my palm, even if I intentionally don't go over what I'm writing. So one thing that you'll notice when I write in cursive, and not always with a fountain pen, but especially if I write in cursive with a fountain pen, is that the angle that I write is completely different than when I'm writing with a brush pen. So if you guys remember from the last video, a lot of times when I'm writing with a brush pen, my hand is actually more like this on the page and I write more straight up and down. Whereas with cursive, in order to get even like a slight slant to the right, which for cursive, I do like. For brush lettering, I don't really care, but for cursive, I do try and have a little bit of a slant to the right. I actually end up having to turn my page and also write specifically like with my hand under what I'm writing. So it's not a natural hand position for me, and that's part of the reason why I think when I write in cursive, I tend to be not as consistent, for one thing, because it's just not the natural way that I write. And for another thing, if my hands are at all shaky, I have way less control when I'm writing at that angle, just because it is such an unnatural angle for me to write in. But that is the way that I found that I've been able to have a semi-consistent sort of right slant. I know there are some people, when they write cursive, they have a much more dramatic slant to the right, but I think, at least for here, I think there is a little bit of a slant, and I think it is overall fairly consistent. And I have to say that the angle of the pen and the angle of the paper has been what has helped me a lot with that. So that is day 2. Hey guys, and welcome back. So we are here for day 3 of the Harry Potter lettering challenge, and today that means we are doing, whoops, Chapter 2, The Vanishing Glass. And so I pulled out these 2 Pentel sign pens. I have this dark blue and this light blue, and I thought I might play around with some kind of like a shading or something like that. So let's see how it goes. Okay, so this was a nice quick one. I decided not to go too crazy with the shading because I'm always really messy with it. But one of the things that I decided kind of part of the way through here was that in order to get an even line across, I actually just went with where the dot was. So you'll see I kind of started really low and then realized, oh, I have this guiding line right here, and went back through and filled in up to that point. I also, and I don't know exactly why, I think it's because it's more visible, but I actually, when I go back through and I add detail, a lot of times I start from the end of the word and work back, even though when I'm writing, I write from the front of the word to the end of the word. And like I said, I think that's because it's just more visible, since I do use the paper under my palm. Anything that I have to the left just gets covered up. Also, I have less chance of smearing because I'm starting with you know, I'm putting ink down, but then everything that I'm sort of brushing my palm over is still dry from what I had written before. So yeah, this was just a little fun practice with some more like bouncy lettering. And you'll see that when I do bouncy lettering, I actually don't go super crazy in terms of like where the letters are actually on the line. They actually tend to stay. So if we this one definitely is not even bouncy lettering. I just did a flourish with the H. But with this one, if we go here, you can see that the bottom of the letters are, or like the main portion of the letters are actually between these two spots right here. So I basically just raise or lower the ascenders or the descenders, but the letters themselves are actually in the same line. And part of that is because just my style as it's developed, I tend to have a more like, I don't know the word for it, but like a more regimented style where I tend to like things that look neater. And so even when I do bouncy lettering, it's not like this chaotic all over the place bouncy, which a lot of people can do and it looks awesome. Mine is still very like controlled in a way, and I don't know, that's just the way that my style has developed. And if we do it down here, you'll see the same thing. And it's not even, at this point, it's not even necessarily intentional. It's just as I'm writing, that's what I do, if that makes any sense. So that is day 3 of the Harry Potter Lettering Challenge. Hey guys, and welcome back to day 4 of the Harry Potter Lettering Challenge. Let's take a look at the prompt for today. Oops. So today we have chapter 3, the letters from no one. So what I wanted to do with this is play around with some different color sign pens, because you guys know I tend to do a lot of like black and gray, and I'm not really like super colorful when I do a lot of lettering. So I'm really trying to, especially for lettering challenges, I really tried to branch out and try different colors and different color combinations that I might not necessarily try normally. So for this one, the letters from no one, let's see how it turns out. Oh, before I start, I actually sometimes, and I think I did this a couple of days ago, I will sometimes put another notebook off to the left or down to the bottom, depending on where I'm actually writing, so that if I'm at this left side of the page, I have something to rest my palm on, because the angle to write from like on the table level onto the paper is just kind of weird. It's much easier when my hand is on the paper and I'm writing on the paper. So in order to kind of equalize that distance, I just will sometimes throw a book on there. So that's why I do that. So this is another simple one. I do actually sometimes practice cursive with brush pens, and just because it gives a different look to the writing. But one of the things that I realized as I was writing this that's different from when I do cursive with my fountain pen. So if you guys remember, when I was doing cursive with my fountain pen, I was basically holding the pen under and going more in this direction, whereas I realized as I was doing this here, I actually hold the pen like I do when I normally do regular brush lettering, like what I did for yesterday. And I think that, I don't know, somebody who has better eyes for this might tell me, but I think that I have less of a slant when I do cursive in brush lettering, and I'm wondering if that's because of the way that I hold my pen. And there's something about using a brush that, in terms of getting your upstrokes and downstrokes to be the right weight, I find that it's just easier to control when I hold the pen like this. I think that's really the only reason. It's one of those things that I've kind of developed depending on the writing style that I have. I just kind of automatically hold my pen one way or another without necessarily thinking about it, because just through trial and error I figured out, oh, if I do it this way it works better, but I don't necessarily analyze why that is. So that is something that if you are a lefty and you're playing around with doing cursive, you might have to be a lot more flexible with how you hold your pen and the way that your paper is than somebody who is a right-handed letterer. Now, I'm not right-handed and I don't really know if that is true or not. So somebody who is a righty who happens to watch these videos, let us know, is that something that as a right-handed person, do you have to play around with how you hold your pen, or is there just kind of one way that you can hold your pen and go for it? I don't know if this is something that's like a lefty specific issue, or if this is a difference between like brush lettering versus calligraphy versus normal handwriting. I'm not really sure. So that's it for today. This one was just a really simple cursive style brush lettering just to kind of play around. And one thing I will mention, I did do I have kind of a rhyme and a reason to the sizing of my letters. So for this particular piece, I actually did anything that had a tall like ascender, so the T's and the H's were starting from the bottom. They were 3 boxes high, but anything that was lower, so the H's, the M's, for example, are only 1 box high, which if you compare this one, I actually did, the ascenders were kind of 3 plus, so for example the H is like 5 boxes tall, but the lower letters, so the N, G, and all of that are actually 2 boxes high. So I like the different look that you get when you play with how the like ratio between the ascenders and the lower part of the letter. There's not really a reason necessarily for why I said, okay, this time I'm gonna do this particular ratio or not, but I just like playing around with different ones to see the effect that it gives to the finished piece. All right, so that is it for day 4. Hey guys, so it is time for day 5 of the Harry Potter Lettering Challenge. I've got my paper so I don't smudge and the pen that I'm going to use for today. So let's take a look. Let's see. So the prompt for today is Mr. H. Potter, the cupboard under the stairs, 4 Privet Drive, Little Whinging, Surrey. So I am going to do this kind of like, and since it was on the envelope, I'm going to do it like an address. So let's take a look. So I'm not sure exactly what happened here. I thought I had more space to write the second line here, so it's definitely not very centered, but again, that wasn't really a concern that I had for this particular challenge. So with this, I played around with a more kind of modern calligraphy, but not super flourishy. So I did sort of like bouncy lettering kind of here and here, and then just really like straight up and down modern calligraphy over here. And you'll notice that with the different lines, I actually played around with the size of the letters. So these, all of the larger letters are 3 squares tall, whereas the shorter ones are 2. Here it's 2 to 1, And then here I kind of actually did like 2 to 2 almost. The capital letters are not much bigger than the rest of the writing. So just kind of playing around with the different sizing. So this was just a way for me to practice different, basically the same style of writing, but with different alterations that I could potentially do. So that is day 5. Hey guys, so for day 6, I thought I would actually do some lettering with a Tombow because I haven't done that yet this challenge. So today's prompt is number 6. So chapter 4, the Keeper of Keys. So I picked this like kind of earthy green to do because I don't know, it just spoke to me. So let's take a look. So I think today I'm actually going to keep the notebook like this as I letter, and since it's such like a short thing to letter, and because I'm using a bigger pen, I want to do kind of each letter or each word to a line, whereas if I turn it horizontally, I tend to run out of space at the end because I try and fit more than one word on a line. So we'll see how it goes. So since this is the first time for this challenge that I'm lettering with a Tombow, I'm just kind of keeping it simple, not doing any like additions or embellishments or anything like that. One of the things that I really dislike in lettering are lettering Ks. You know, I think everybody has a couple of letters that they're just like, oh my gosh, this never comes out the way that I want it to. And for me, it's Ks. I always play around with whether or not I do a loop on the top or if I just do a straight line. And I don't know, I feel like it just never looks quite the way that I want it to, but whatever, we'll move on. So I kind of did also a little bit of, or I intended to do, we'll say it that way. I intended to do a bit of bouncy lettering. However, it didn't work out that way. It really didn't. And I think part of it has to do with whenever I have a K, connecting the next letter is always just like a little bit awkward feeling as I'm writing. And then when I have 2 letters in a row that are the same, it just kind of goes a little bit wonky. So this ended up being less bouncy lettering than I had kind of intended it to be, but that's okay. Overall, I really do like lettering with Tombows, but it is one of those things that if I've been lettering with a smaller pen like a Pentel sign pen for a while, I have to kind of take a second to get used to this particular pen again, just because it is so much bigger. But I do love the effect of lettering with Tombows. So that is day 6. Hey guys, so for day 7, I thought I would play around with another brush pen that I have that I really enjoy lettering with. So this is a Tombow Finosuke, and I would say that the nib size is slightly larger than a Pentel sign pen. So it's definitely nowhere near as big as a Tombow, but it does give you a little bit of a bigger final product than a sign pen does. So I like playing around with this one too, just to give like different sizes and just have a different pen to play with. So let's take a look at the prompt for today. So today is Harry, You're a Wizard from Hagrid. So always a fun one to letter. So let's flip to our page. I think we're here. All right. And I think same as with yesterday, I'm actually going to keep my paper just like this because why not? It's kind of fun. So I haven't used this pen in a while, and I didn't realize that it was starting to run out of ink, so that is why I've got some sort of jumps in some of the sections of my letters, but I kind of ran with it and decided to do like a little like messier, sort of swoopier style, just to kind of go with Hagrid. And that's a lot of times what will happen is I won't necessarily know when I'm starting out how I want to actually letter something, and I'll just kind of go with whatever feels right in the moment. So one thing with this particular piece, so you'll notice that my capital H's are just like normal H's because they're another letter that the capital H that's like more calligraphy style I don't always like. And actually for a really long time when I first started lettering, I just didn't do capital letters like at all. I would just do lowercase constantly because I liked the look of them better. So I've been trying to actually do uppercase letters and find versions that I like. I don't dislike this, it's just it doesn't always go with the rest of the lettering, so I'm not sure how to fix that one. That one's still a work in progress. The other thing is this double R. Double R's are so annoying, especially when you're doing kind of swoopier and more like bouncy style lettering. So when I do a normal, just like everything is on the same line, none of the ascenders or the descenders are higher or lower than anything else, it's fine. But as soon as I start adding in more swooshes and I have things like, for example, this R goes down a lot lower than these two do, and it's something with like that first one, if I have it go down too low, then the next like R, it just looks weird. So that's another one that practicing those double letters is something that I should definitely do more that I don't. And once again, I still have to work on the flourishes. I really think that, so I think part of the reason why I don't do a lot of flourishes is because I find them to be really, really annoying to do as a lefty, because whenever I do flourishes, I basically have to push the pen, and I almost always get some kind of a squiggle in there because pushing is just not as smooth as pulling the pen, which is what you do if you're writing and you do flourishes. So I have not yet figured out a good way to do that. That's one of the reasons why I do keep the paper under my hand, just because having that paper on paper means that I can slide a little bit better and it keeps it from getting like too jerky. But as you can see, that is not always a surefire way of getting sort of smooth flourishes. So if you guys have any tips that you figured out for doing flourishes that don't look like I was driving down the road while I was writing, let me know down in the comments, because it's a struggle for me still. All right, so that was day 7. Hey guys, welcome back for day 8 of the Harry Potter Lettering Challenge, and this is actually going to be the last one in this particular section. I'm going to upload about once a week just because a lot of the videos are really, really short, so I figured I'd just put a couple together and give you guys a bit of a longer video to see all at once. So anyway, day 8. So today I thought I would play around with a little bit of watercolor lettering. So I have not actually tested watercolors in this notebook. I'm just going to confirm that that is true. Yes, I didn't actually test watercolors in this notebook, so this is going to be an experiment, but I thought, why not? I really enjoyed doing watercolor lettering, and it's something that I want to practice a little bit more. So let's take a look at the prompt for today, and I'll show you what watercolors I will be using also. So day 8, we have Diagonally. So chapter 5, Diagonally, but you know I'm just going to do Diagonally. So let's go ahead and get our page set up. Here we go. So, and I think that I'm actually going to do, today this direction, and let me pull out my watercolor palette. So I am going to use these newer liquid watercolors that I got that are in like more muted tones than my other set. And I think that today I am going to use, this like, what is this, like light red, I think is what it's actually called, but it looks kind of like almost orangey. I don't know. So I'm going to be using this, and I also have a small water brush pen. So this is actually a Kuretake. And it's my favorite size for lettering just because I feel like I have more control when I have the smaller nib. I find that with these types of pens, because it's not that like synthetic Tombow pen where the brush like holds together more, I find that I get less like splaying, and I have like neater lines when I use a smaller nib for lettering in watercolors. So got my water over here as well, figure out a place to put that. And let's see, got limited space. How am I gonna do this? We're gonna do it like that. There we go. So, put this book down, get my paper, and let's see how it goes. So, watercolor lettering is always a bit of a challenge as a lefty because, as you guys could probably see, I got the first 4 letters in and I reached the O and I was like, how can I do this without running my hand over it? And I even still got a little bit of smudging. I'm not sure what that was from, but so that is definitely the challenge especially for me with watercolor lettering, is that I reach a point where the watercolor isn't dry yet, so I can't actually put my paper over it because it will really smudge it. But I also don't really want to stop because then I get this like really big split in how the lettering actually looks. So the fact that when I started out I had more control over the watercolors and all of that, it started drying, and then when I went back and I had to kind of wait, it kind of threw me off, and so then I got too much paint on the brush, and now you can just see this split in the word. The second word came out a little bit better, except that at the end, so you can see this Y is a bit squatter, for example, than this G, and that was because I reached that point where I was a little bit too far away and I couldn't get enough reach to actually make it more elongated. One thing I do with water brush lettering that does kind of help, and that's kind of what I ended up doing down here, is if I normally write with like this, as I get farther away, I will move my hand down and kind of extend, but it also means that I have less control. I don't really have a good way around that. It usually ends up meaning that either I end up writing under or over the word in order to avoid the part that I've already done, but it is definitely one of those pitfalls of trying to do watercolor lettering as a lefty. Yeah, it is what it is. I also have to say that this particular flourish on the A, I regret doing. I don't really like it very much. I like how this one came out, and so I kind of wanted to do the same thing, and not really a fan. So there you have it, the first 8 days of the Harry Potter Lettering Challenge for July. I will probably be uploading this on Monday, so the 9th. Just because I need a little bit of time to edit it and get everything ready, and I'll have my normal video going up on Sunday, so I think this will probably go up on Monday the 9th. You guys will see. And yeah, let me know in the comments if you have any specific types of lettering you'd like to see me play around with during this challenge. I am going to try and use the various implements that I have around my house, and as I kind of progress through, I want to play around a little bit more with things like drop shadows and embellishments and all that kind of stuff, but at least for this first week I really wanted to focus on just kind of the basics. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this series, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!